We don't know.
Yeah, it's starting now.
Okay.
Right. It is starting.
Sorry about that.
Restart.
Sorry about that. We had a little technical difficulties. Welcome to New Holstein High School for the Synergy Science Podcast. Today we once again have Ethan Weber, Isaac Weber, Max Knopf, myself, Mr. Rupp, and today special guest Lily Fighter. Lily's going to give us some insight into her thoughts on cultured meat, which is going to be one of our big topics today. We're also going to talk about today glowing trees
once
and
again
have
Ethan
street
Weber,
lights.
Isaac Weber,
what
Max
happens when we
Knopf,
die?
myself, Mr.
Max
Rupp, and
is
today
gonna take us
special
there.
guest.
Isaac's going to get into nuclear fusion, and Ethan's going to talk about the world of robotics. I do want to note, guys, Lily Fighter, first female on a New Holstein podcast, making history today. Science podcast is all about breaking down barriers, and we want the best minds in New Holstein here, so that's what we're going to do. All right, but before we get into our featured stories, we actually had some breaking news today, and Isaac is going to break that for us.
All right, so as you may have heard on the news, there's been some new introduction to the world of science and physics. Gravitational waves have been discovered, and just as Einstein predicted 100 years ago, in 1915 and 1916, they exist. People like Isaac Newton, right? He didn't think that they existed. He thought everything was linear, but Einstein was like, not having that. He's not a fan of that theory.
Not today.
So, these gravitational waves, they come from, there's many ways for them to come, but the reason that we discovered them now was because two black holes were orbiting each other, and this creates gravitational waves. Some other possible ways would be like, let's say there's a planet, right, and it has a really big bump on the side and it's spinning. That'll create gravitational waves.
So these two black holes, they collided, is that correct?
Yeah, they came into contact with one another and they started orbiting each other, which, yeah,
So you got sucked into each other's orbit?
basically
And
it's
this is not bad for us, that's perfectly normal.
Are we gonna die?
perfectly normal. No, we are just dandy. Assuming that a black hole doesn't come near us.
Assuming that this is even life.
And what
Yeah.
does this mean for like physics?
Yeah, what's the
Where are we
significance
gonna
of
go?
this, and why should people care?
Well, so there's a big old theory behind this, and that there's a whole lot of stuff that's happening.
Seems very scientific.
Very
A lot of stuff
very-
happening.
A lot of stuff happening.
We're not physics expert. We need to get Miss Alcox in here.
We'll be physics
Eventually.
soon.
Yeah.
This is broke today, so we didn't really have a lot of
This is
time to
breaking
prepare on
news.
this.
It sounds like they're going to be able to predict like a gravitational map of the universe,
Oh.
and now they did prove that black holes are like for real.
Indeed, black and a
So-
hole.
Yeah.
Isaac, did you see at all how this was discovered? I think it was kind of interesting how they did it. Did you see the story on that or not?
Are you talking about the very sensitive sensors?
Yeah, and they're like 2.5 miles long, and they're like in each direction.
Yeah.
And I don't know, they shoot some sort of, I don't know what they do exactly, but
just
apparently they're
sensors.
very sensitive, and they're 2.5 miles long, and they gather data.
And haven't they been working on that for like 40 years?
Yeah.
And now they
Finally did it. So I guess, more to come on the gravitational waves and just physics in general. I would say probably not my strong suit. I'm more of a life science person. But thanks for the breaking news. And I think we're going to go on to,
The meat.
okay, so you want to flip that?
Where is the
Ethan?
meat?
Where's the beef? This is the whole point. So you guys probably too young to remember the ad on the left there, but this is a classic commercial. I think it was either Burger King or Hardee's, but that's a huge bun with a little tiny piece of beef on there. And the story here is that in San Francisco is a company called Memphis Meats. And let's watch the video and then we'll get into the discussion.
My name is Uma Voletti. I am the CEO of Memphis Meats. We started Memphis Meats to make eating meat delicious, safe, and healthy for everyone. We have had this technical breakthrough of using real meat cells to grow meat, the meatball that changed the world. There is not enough resources to feed a growing world's population. The greenhouse gas from our process is 90% less than what traditional animal agriculture would cause. So today what we are doing is something that we've been working on for the last 2 to 3 weeks, and we farmed meat cells from beef. We brought it over to the kitchen along with our team, and we also had a specialty chef named Dave Anderson. What we asked him to do is to recreate the experience of a meatball. He took the meat that we grew, he used a recipe, Italian meatball recipe, and created a beautiful meatball, and we watched him cook it. We watched how the meatball reacted when it was put in a pan. We heard the sizzle, we smelled the meat that was being cooked, and It was exactly what you would expect a beef meatball to smell like.
It tastes like a meatball. It's good.
You know, this is the first time a meatball has ever been cooked with beef cells that did not require a cow to be slaughtered. So, you know, this was a big and momentous occasion for us, and given that it tasted exactly like beef, it's one of the historic moments in the history of our company, and I'm glad you're here to capture it.
So I saw this story. I think I actually saw this last Thursday, right before we were going to go on to our first podcast, and I'm like, you know, this is just the kind of stuff that I think we need to talk about.
People need to know.
Yeah, well, it's just interesting science. So basically, we've got this company, Memphis Meats in San Francisco, and they want to grow what they call cultured meat. So they basically are going to take cells from cows, pigs, chickens, and they're going to grow them in a petri dish, and they're going to use like all the normal hormones that would be in the cow or the pig or the chicken, and they're going to use no antibiotics. They're going to make it, 100% natural, and they're going to grow these cells. And they hope to, within 5 years, to have products like hot dogs, sausages, burgers, meatballs out available on the market. And basically, the CEO you saw in the video, he said this is absolutely the future of meat. We plan to do to animal agriculture what the horse and buggy did to the car, or what the car did to the horse and buggy. Now, I don't know if you want to talk about horses when you're talking about meat, but I think you might want to.
Hey, the Great Depression.
I guess. So cultured meat's going to completely replace the status quo, make raising animals to eat them simply unthinkable. You know, here's the thing. I guess, does anybody know why they would want to do this in the first place? And what's their rationale for culturing meat versus raising meat? What's one of the things that he thinks is a problem with raising farm animals? Anybody catch that? Lily?
Oh, I don't.
I'm
I don't know. I think some people have stuff against killing the animals for meat.
Okay.
Whereas with the cultured meat, you just take a little bit of the tissue of an animal that's not harming them whatsoever.
Yeah. So you'd actually never have to
kill anything.
Kill an animal.
Bacteria probably wouldn't
again.
be an issue.
He talked about bacteria, and we do see these E. coli outbreaks in like hamburger and things like that.
Wouldn't have to worry about that.
Fecal matter is getting in there. We talk about sometimes having antibiotics in the meat. So there's definitely some. I don't think meat's a perfect world, but they're also saying greenhouse gases. So cattle can be a huge source of methane, which is a greenhouse gas, and all the machinery to raise cattle is big. So he's saying we can cut the greenhouse emissions if we were to culture our meat instead of actually raising our meat. And so right off the bat, like I said, Lily being a farmer, I thought, she's going to have some insight on this, and what I want to get your thoughts about this. So go ahead, tell the people, or me, whatever.
I don't know. I don't think there's.
Scoot a little bit because you're not in the camera totally.
Oh,
Okay.
Lily, get in the camera.
She is a little bit.
I'm
Here's
close
Lily.
up. No, I don't think there's any difference between the meat and whereas raising cow and growing it in a petri dish. I think it's just as healthy both ways. But raising it in the culture, I read on an article that there's no fat in it, so that kind of loses a lot of flavor
Right.
for the meat. So I mean, where growing up your own animal, that's going to give it a lot more flavor to the meat.
You're referring to, this is the second thing, that in 2013 they actually tried this already. There was a company, and it was a Dutch company, and they actually spent $325,000 to
Yeah.
make a single hamburger patty, and it was all just muscle. There was no fat. And so
Nice.
the people who tried the burger were like, it's dry, and there's not a lot of great flavor to it.
Gotta get some moisture.
Can
in
they
there.
add fat though?
So,
Dude,
yeah,
they
I
can
think...
culture fat. They can culture tissue. They can culture fat.
Well, this is funny, and I was talking to Kaz about this yesterday, because he said, this doesn't seem right. If I'm eating beef, I want the bone. I want to have a steak with a bone in it. And I said, we probably could culture bone cells. We could culture fat cells. We could be making these
Let's just
synthetic steaks.
culture animals, guys.
I mean, and you know what? I also thought about, guys, and girls. This reminds me of going back to HeLa cells,
I was just thinking about that.
Okay.
because without Henrietta Lacks, we would never be growing cells in culture. Thank you, Henrietta. So we had to read the book.
Shout
so
out.
these guys, shout
That's
out to
just
HeLa.
100 years ago too.
That's right. Now, cost.
Much more expensive.
In 2013, they estimated it would cost $30 a pound to make the cultured meat.
Yeah, that's like some Kohler meat
That's
quality.
A lot of money.
Depending on the cut of meat, you might be paying $10 a pound if you're getting like a really good steak or something. But burger might be what, $4?
Ground hamburger, yeah, it's about $4 a pound
So,
right now.
in order for this to be to be realistic, I think they're going to have the cost come down. Now, I don't know who's running the Twitter feed here. Is that
Oh,
Max?
that's me.
Max, I want you to put a poll up. You know how to do that thing?
Right. I don't even know.
Okay,
Can
well,
we
we're
do
gonna
that
get a poll on there.
This is too
See,
complicated.
these kids are supposed to be.
I'm thinking about death right now. Just
Okay, sorry.
Give me a little
We're
bit.
gonna get a thing on our Twitter feed about a poll. Like, would you try it, or maybe would you buy it? I guess would you be interested in trying? I want to know what people are thinking. I think some people would just absolutely not want to, and I think other people would. I would try it. I mean, for sure, I'm up for trying anything.
I'd try it.
I try it.
Traditional beef
I already eat it.
generates 1 calorie of beef for every 23 calories of food that goes in. So basically, you got to feed the animal all this
Lot,
stuff.
yeah.
Cultured beef, 1 calorie from 3 calories. So
Nice.
much more efficient. And he claims the product will be free of antibiotics, fecal matter, and pathogens. So
Nice
You
shit.
talked about equipment costs for farming. Is
Oh,
that
yeah.
like, are you gonna need a lot of equipment for the
Culturing?
culturing?
I think it's gonna be very expensive.
do you think so?
Probably.
I'm
Reopen
thinking,
the Henrietta Lacks cell factories and just put some meat
just
stuff
getting
in there.
more advanced.
you know, honestly, I feel like it would be probably less. I think it would be less costly to set up the equipment. I think for me the biggest hiccup is people aren't going to necessarily, if they don't like the flavor of it,
Yeah.
changing
That's true.
is big. What about what is this going to do to farmers?
Well,
Or what would it do to could it do to farmers?
you're gonna eliminate
Crops.
farmers whatsoever. You're,
Crops. You still
Would
got those
farmers
crops though.
adapt to this maybe?
Would they
I don't know.
become scientists?
I don't know, because there's a lot of farmers that out there that are they're beef farmers and they're dairy farmers. What are you gonna do with them now? You mean you still need the dairy farmers.
We still
to
need
make-
milk. We still
To
need
make the
milk.
milk, you still need the milk. But then
Cheese.
the beef farmers that are out in the west and the ranches, they're gonna be eliminated, and then they're gonna have to turn to cash cropping. And
It's going to be interesting to see, you know, if this gets to be a real big thing. And it's in California, and I don't know that it's going to go nationwide or what the plan is, but it's just going to be interesting to see if this takes off, and then what that does to what kind of ripple effects it sends through the agricultural community. And you know, are you going to get people that are, you know, kind of fighting against this sort of thing? And first of all, the number one thing I think they have to worry about is they have to get a product that people want to eat. If you don't have a good product, you're not going to, people aren't going to change. So anyway, I saw the story. I thought it was really interesting, so I thought we should bring it to the Synergy podcast. Okay.
Go on trees.
Glowing trees.
Glowing trees.
So glowing trees, we actually had a viewer contact us, and Amy Holzer from Hartford, Wisconsin, was watching our podcast last week, and all of a sudden looks like we're off air, boys. Is that me?
No, I'm so good.
What the hey? So maybe it's my computer. So Amy Holzer from Hartford, Wisconsin, wanted us to talk about genetically modifying trees to replace streetlights. And so I did a little research into this. There's these two scientists. One's an artist and an innovator, Don Rosengard from the Netherlands, and then we've got another Dr. Alexander, Krachowski, and he's from New York University. They formed a company called BioGlow, and what they did, their whole thing was they wanted to make plants that were going to be autoluminescent, so they would basically glow in the dark. And so what they ended up doing was using some genetic engineering. They took the gene from a bacteria that would glow, and they put it into the plants. And the first plants that they made was called the Starlight Avatar, and the Avatar named from like the glowing in the movie Avatar. Remember that? And it was the first autonomously luminescent plant. They made 20 of them. They sold them for $800 each, and they will emit a soft glow in the dark. But the one rule is it cannot be exposed to sunlight. So it's yeah, you can't do
Whoa.
it. Apparently, it will die. So clearly, we have a lot of work to do in this area yet.
Yeah, you'd almost think you could use the sunlight to basically charge the glow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
put some solar
somehow it's
Yeah.
got to have a problem
Solar
with sun.
panels.
The problem here is that they need the plants to be more resilient. He also believes that in the future they're going to have the capability not to just do the blue light like you're seeing in this picture, but to do the red and yellow lights as well. So I think they want to try to get just overall light up the world with luminescent trees and save energy with us instead of street lights.
It's never dark out.
But I just think that it's a long way off. The guy here from the Netherlands, he's the same man who designed the smart highway in the Netherlands, where they're using
Oh, yeah, I saw that,
photoluminescent
yeah. That's
strips
actually pretty cool.
to give extra light on the highways.
road,
And then
yeah.
also when there's black ice, they have these giant
Like
ice
snowflakes.
snowflakes come up.
Yeah.
And so this is the guy who did this. So he's a guy who gets stuff done. I just think the science isn't
Go
quite
do it.
there yet. The little starlight avatars are tiny little plants. We're a little bit ways from a genetically modified tree. So,
Yeah,
Amy,
when I was looking for this, it seemed like there weren't a ton of articles about glowing trees. It
Yeah.
seemed to be kind of limited in its research.
I think this BioGlow is one of the first companies doing it, and I think they're really, really in their infancy. So it's not going to happen anytime soon. But Amy, thanks for your inquiry, and folks, if you're listening, watching, tweet us, message us. Let us know if there's something you want us to try to research and talk about, because we're really here for you. Okay, I believe next
Death?
we're going
We're
to
good with death now?
move on. And Matt's going to talk about what happens when you die.
Alrighty, guys. Well, let's move from trees to death. That's always a fun time.
Natural transition.
So what do you guys think that happens when we die? Your body goes into rigor mortis, your brain just starts to deteriorate, so do other cells, and you start to smell and you go right into a coffin, right? Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, there's a lot of different perspectives on it. You go to heaven, you go to hell, you go to wherever you believe in, or just life itself simply ends. Well, here's a short video of what actually does happen to your body when death occurs. I'm gonna hit that link up.
Oh boy, there it is.
We're getting there.
There it is. Stick with me, folks. This is pretty boring. I'm not even gonna lie.
There we go.
But it's very informative.
Very informative.
You are going to die.
Listen up, viewers, we've got important news for you. One of these days, you're gonna die. Well, hopefully it's not gonna happen today, so now that we've caught you while you're living, we want to hit you with some science so that you're aware of what goes on after you're gone. Let's say hypothetically that you were to just slump over dead in your chair right now. So what happens next? Well, because your heart is no longer pumping, your blood stops flowing and coagulates, forming clots and becoming really thick and lumpy. As your blood is no longer circulating, it settles where gravity forces it to, a process called post-mortem hypostasis or livor mortis. Without circulation, your body temperature also drops and your muscles stiffen in a process known as rigor mortis. Now, obviously you aren't breathing anymore. No respiration means no oxygen is getting to your cells, and without oxygen in your cells, the mitochondria inside can't make ATP, a chemical used for a host of cellular tasks. If your cells can't make ATP, your cells stop working, or in other words, they're dead. With your cells now kaput, they start to break down and release all sorts of stuff, including enzymes. That makes for an environment that is very attractive to bacteria and fungi, which eventually enter the mix and start decomposing or putrefying the body. This process certainly isn't pretty, but it's definitely normal. Before you're buried or cremated, your family may want a funeral. To slow down the decomposition process and keep you looking tidy, chemistry comes in handy via a process called embalming. The embalming process happens in 2 steps. First, your body is going to be loaded full of preservative chemicals like formaldehyde or glutaraldehyde using a pump and your circulatory system. Next, all of your stomach contents get sucked out and all the dark nether regions untouched by the circulatory system are filled up with the same chemicals. While the embalming process does offer more time for your family to bid farewell to a you that mostly looks like you, it is only temporary, then it's back to decomposition. During the decomposition process, a huge array of chemical byproducts are spewed out by bacteria. 2 in particular, putrescine and cadaverine, smell absolutely disgusting. I mean really, they smell like a dead body. Sulfur-containing compounds are also produced, which reek like rotten egg and skunk, along with countless other gases that work together to temporarily make you more bloated than you ever were while living. Okay, so we've heard that some say that your hair and nails keep growing after you die. Well, let's see what mortician/YouTuber Caitlin Doty from the Order of Good Death has to say about that.
The hair on your head grows a tiny amount every day, but when you die, those processes stop. For thousands of years, people thought that the dead's hair and fingernails kept growing after death because that's what it looked like to the naked eye. But it's not that the hair and nails are growing, it's that the rest of your body is shrinking. When you die, your body dehydrates and the formerly moisturized, plump skin shrivels, revealing not growth, but what was already there to begin with.
Nice.
We took a real dark turn here in this podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Some disturbing smells.
Okay.
All right. Well, that was a pretty fun lesson on
Death.
what actually happens to your body when you die. I hope you guys did not exit out of that because it was quite boring. But so now moving on to some more interesting things. According to Time.com, a clinical trial was launched including 25 major medical centers through Europe, Canada, and the U.S. This project is called AWARE, or Awareness During Resuscitation. And also I found a couple corroborating articles such as news.mic. So, what happened during this is 1,500 survivors of cardiac arrest were examined. And no, people didn't just get volunteered into this. What happened, these scientists would rush in with all the materials that they needed to test while these people were undergoing cardiac arrest and while the other doctors were trying to resuscitate them. So it was quite voluntary. However, so when you do die, this is a fact. The brain ceases functioning within 10 seconds of the heart stopping. So here's where it gets weird. The people that were tested and survived resuscitation said they can recall everything. They can recall the processes that the doctors used to resuscitate them. There was a cardiologist in California that recalled a patient telling him the exact procedures that he used when he resuscitated him, which was, CPR and then into the defibrillation and adrenaline dose. So here's what they did. So these scientists would place pictures that were only visible from the ceiling. This sounds a little weird, but all the survivors say that they saw everything from the ceiling. So what happened is that the people that were tested on this and successfully survived, they could recall everything. They could tell the scientists the exact pictures that were on the floor or the ceiling. I'm not sure what from the ceiling actually means. It's not very clear on that. And
they're viewing it from above.
yeah, well, from above, so they're floating.
Yeah, right.
And they could accurately recall what the pictures were, which is very controversial.
How many subjects were there in this test?
There was 1,500 in this one, and there's another 1,500.
Each one could recall
subjects.
it?
Yeah, each of the survivors could recall it.
There was any
I think there
cases
was 170 survivors that could recall it.
Oh.
So,
Wow.
in conclusion to this experiment, the brain itself was dead. These people were brain dead.
Mm-hmm.
However, their consciousness or their mind was still alive. So the brain and the mind aren't the same, as this article and many others have proven. So there are cases in death that can also prove this, where the mind is still alive when the brain is actually dead, as these patients could still recall what was going on while they were being resuscitated. So
Max, let me ask a question. The scientists that ran this experiment,
Yeah.
what was their conclusion? What did they come out and say? What was their reports? I mean, that people live on after death, or what was their?
I'm going to get to that soon,
Okay.
but what they really found out was that the brain and the mind are two different things, and that consciousness doesn't just originate from the brain; it's something that in itself entirely. So, let me ask you guys: what do you think is going to happen when we make these medical advancements that can slow down death from seconds to days, 2 days, to get these doctors to resuscitate these people? What do you think is going to happen to that consciousness?
So when you're talking about slowing down death, like you say, the brain stops after 10 seconds.
After 10 seconds, so
the
that they
heart
can,
stops.
they can create this serum.
When the heart stops and the brain stops,
Yeah,
are
10
you
seconds.
pronounced dead?
Yes, you are pronounced clinically dead at that point.
So you're saying reducing that time?
So what they would
before
do
you
is
die?
that they would create like a magical serum that would slow down the process of deterioration. It would stop the brain. It would keep the brain functioning, so the doctors would have more time to resuscitate the patient.
So take that 10 seconds and multiply it over a couple of days.
Yeah. What do you guys think is going to happen to that? Do you think that's a little too much? Do you think that would be more beneficial in society for resuscitation, or do you think that could cause some problems?
If it gives people hope to live a little bit longer, I mean, why not try it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing to lose at that point, right?
Apparently.
I guess I'm just sort of. This is kind of shocking to me that all these people are having the same experience, and I don't really have any answer to that. I got nothing when it comes to trying to explain that. I don't know. I'm at a loss.
It's very speculative. And do you want to switch slides, please?
Yeah, I know, from a religious sense, I believe in God.
Yeah.
So, and I read a book called Proof of Heaven, where it was a neuroscience that actually had this happen to him, and he recalled everything as well.
Yeah.
So.
There's
Yeah,
more
I know
proof.
that the brain or the soul and the mind. That what you
stuff's
just said
pretty
is
crazy. I'm gonna get into some weird stuff, so please hold on. So, this is rather speculative view from wonderaggressive.com. So, it talks a lot about DMT, otherwise known as dimethyltryptamine, which is a wide-known illegal narcotic and one of the most potent psychedelics known to man. Well, what happens is that this pineal gland, as you can see up there, the very, very, very small gland in your brain, produces this in very small amounts throughout the day, along with melatonin, and pinealine, but that's irrelevant at this point. We're talking about the DMT. So, it's speculated that this drug or, hormone, for lack of better terms, is what runs our consciousness. It's what runs our dreams. So when we die, it's speculated that a large amount, like a large dose of this DMT is released, and this will release our souls in a for lack of a better term to do there, because it's very speculative. Once again, there's not really any proof to go off of this. And their conclusion is in this few minutes when our consciousness is still alive after we're brain dead, based off the accounts of the survivors, who also commonly said that this few minutes felt like years. They felt like they were living in an eternity, and when they woke up, it's kind of like the Inception, where was it Leonardo DiCaprio had a 50-year night.
Yeah.
This is what they speculated to be. So, with this in mind, do we experience our lives all over again in death when we're in death's grasp? Are we actually in death's grasp right now? Are we just reliving our life through what actually happened?
Shoot.
Are we dying right now? Can anyone answer that?
I got nothing.
I can't answer that.
No.
So, what is life? We could be recalling the same exact experiences that we lived when we were 16, 17, 18 years old, and we could be dying at age 90 right now. We would never know.
This seems like pseudoscience. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a lot. The only scientific research that can corroborate with this is quantum physics, and ironically, quantum physics is not even understood by quantum physicists. But I'm gonna get a lot more into that next week.
I'm going to throw another twist on this. Like, that video, it said, you are going to die? Mm-hmm. There's scientists that think they're not going to die. There's scientists that are talking about uploading their brains to computers.
And creating artificial consciousness.
And saving their lives, like, now, stored in some computer files, and then when we have the technology down, like, a couple years down
Chappie,
the road.
the movie Chappie.
Then bring it back. So...
Great movie, folks.
Is that because they think they're such a great scientist that their mind needs to be preserved? It's a little bit presumptuous. I mean,
well, everyone doesn't want to die,
That's true. That's
so
true.
I think scientists.
Well, it was accomplished on the movie Chappie. For those of you who don't know it, a scientist actually successfully created consciousness and uploaded it to this computer, and then later uploaded it to this junk robot, who was then able to function and grow like a normal human being from a baby.
This is when the science fiction is
beginning
to become nonfiction.
We just crossed over.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Chappie's been fact checked.
It's a movie.
It is a movie,
so you
it
can
must be
fact
true.
check it from that.
It must be true if it's on movies. Okay.
We do fact check.
We do fact check everyone.
These are
We
actual
do fact
studies.
check.
It's just I don't know what to say about them. Okay, Max. Any more thoughts on what happens when we die?
Are we dead right now?
I hope not, and I hope that we can't answer that question anytime soon. So
that would be.
all right, I think we're going into robots.
Enough about it.
Maybe the robots are actually controlling the world, and we're
going into question mark.
Oh, that was with mine. That corroborated with mine. You can go to the next one.
It's the Riddler. Oh, we're going. I'm sorry, I lied. We're going into nuclear fusion.
Yeah.
Nuclear fusion.
Saving the robots for life.
Check.
So there's some crazy stuff happening in the world of nuclear fusion, but before we get into that stuff, I'm just gonna go ahead and explain what it is and like how it works. So as you can see up on the screen, you got some hydrogen up there, and I'll explain why it's hydrogen in a little bit. But what you do is you take some hydrogen and some more hydrogen, and you just slam them together at very high temperatures.
Oh.
And then you get a larger hydrogen, and then you get a neutron floating off.
Should this be censored?
No,
They're doing a lot of slamming together.
No. It's not like that. It's not like that. That's for biology class.
Cool.
Yeah. See, but we don't want the neutron and the helium. We want the energy that comes out of this. And the reason that we want this is because it's just way much better. So a lot of you guys might be confused. Nuclear fusion, alright, what's the counterpart, nuclear fission? I'm not really sure the difference. What is it?
There's a you and an I.
Oh, he does.
Okay.
This is the rhetorical.
I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, you don't know?
No.
I did look at some of the articles.
I know the difference.
Okay, good. Okay.
I'm talking from the perspective of you guys.
Yeah.
So you're calling our viewers ignorant?
Dude, there could be some
There could
nuclear
be.
physicists
Okay.
out there.
Could be. I mean,
Yeah.
So obviously some of you guys might know, right?
Yeah. Don't insult.
But
our
I'm
viewers.
going for some people that don't know. I'm sure there's going to be someone who's like, well, shoot, I've heard of both of these, and
Present.
I very well know
Yep.
the difference between nuclear fusion and nuclear fission, but I don't. It's like I'm just confused, so I'm going to explain it to you. I said nuclear fusion was combining two to create something else, but nuclear fission, that's splitting one to create more. Alright, so what we got is we got a neutron, and we're sending it at high speed, an extremely high speed, into a different nucleus. And really there's some chain reactions going on here. Right now this isn't hydrogen. I'm going to explain that in a few slides, but this is typically done with uranium and stuff like that, as you can probably guess, nuclear bombs. But we're sending that neutron to just break it up and send out more neutrons and fission products, and it's just going to keep going on on a chain reaction. So that those neutrons that are splitting off are going to go right into more, and just more, and more, and it's going to keep creating bigger and bigger reactions.
Chain reaction.
Yep. So fission is splitting, fusion is combining. And as I said before, any question? No.
Yeah, when you're breaking it, is it ever going to end? Like when you run out of particles?
Yeah, it's when you run out of particles. So depending on the amount that you
Yep.
have when you start splitting, then it's going to create like nuclear bombs.
Yeah, one of the downsides, I think, and maybe a good chance to talk about fission and why we don't, we do use fission as power, but we have the waste, and we're left with this radioactive uranium that lasts for thousands of years, and where do you put it? And so, we've had to fight with that issue. It's a great source of energy, but we get the waste, and you have the risk of meltdowns. So fission, I think, has more potential, but we got some issues with that too, right?
Yeah, so in Japan, right, well, there's a lot of places with nuclear power plants, and the way that they're currently doing it is through fission, which creates nuclear waste and byproduct, which is very bad. It's radioactive. It's terrible for the environment. Like, if you look at Chernobyl, people are just now they're just now able to start going back there and looking at some of the stuff without having to wear like super big heavy suits, but you still can't get close to the sites where the stuff actually went down.
In fact, I think they're trying to build
robots.
Well, they're using robots to build that dome that they're going to slide over top of that as well to try to contain it.
Yeah.
The whole problem with Chernobyl was the whole way they built that plant was not safe. It was the way that the Soviet Union operated. They didn't care about safety. They wanted to mass produce quickly and get the power. We had a similar meltdown in 3 Mile Island, and ours was completely contained. So if they would have had a containment building around the reactor, USA, right? That was just
No
bad.
offense to any
any Russians listening or
Soviets
Soviets
or Russians
listening.
out there.
We don't want Putin on our bad side here, but it was a bad design.
I'm actually going to talk about
Robots.
cleaning up nuclear disasters later. But
Okay.
Keep going.
Cool.
Alright, so another thing along with that radioactivity, that's the real benefit to fusion. There's none of that. But I'm going to explain, like in the first slide you saw that it's hydrogen that we're combining, and that's because, as you can see, there's a graph up there which shows
Nice. Will it be on their computer? It's up there for us though.
The use, right? So on the left side, you see there's average binding energy, which basically says like how tightly it's bound together. And like some different examples would be like carbon 12, carbon 13, carbon 14. Those all have different numbers. And on there, as you can see, there's helium-3 and helium-4. They're at different levels. And then on the x-axis, the bottom, you have the number of nucleons in the nucleus. So it's also referred to as the mass number, or the atomic number on the in the periodic table. And uranium is way at the end. That's used for splitting because there's such a high amount of nucleons in the nucleus. So if you send something in, you're going to send out a whole boatload of other little nucleons. It can split really fast.
Gotcha.
Censor that.
Boatload?
Little nucleons going in there.
Oh, I see. All right. But I know what you're thinking, like, this is a whole bunch of bogus, I don't need to learn about nuclear fission. You do. The reason that we care is because there's an energy crisis going on in the world. I mean, I heard that on the news. That's a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo. But
Malarkey.
no, like if you think about it, we have fossil fuels. Those are exhaustible sources of energy. windmills up there. That's better. We're reaching our goal. And the reason that we need nuclear fusion is because it's a clean, nearly inexhaustible energy. It's basically harnessing the power of the sun in our own lives.
You just use ocean water.
Yeah.
Now,
Just ocean.
here's a question for you. Why haven't we got it yet? I mean, what's going on? We have scientists that can do almost everything. Why do we not have fusion reactors that are producing clean fusion energy right now?
Energy.
Are they too dangerous?
Well,
Is
what's
the power
going
too
on
much to
here?
contain?
See, there's some. I'm literally right about to talk about this.
Well, there you go. That's called transitions, right?
It's here,
there.
guys. It's here. See, on the left side, that's China's nuclear. I mean, they don't look very much different, but on the left side, you know what? We'll go with the right side first.
Okay. Your left or our left?
It's the same thing.
Shoot.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. So on the right side, we got that's Germany's nuclear fusion reactor, and it was,
That also looks like that looks like where the hub was shot from on Wednesday.
It sort of does.
I think that's where the hub was live from.
Are we
Yeah,
gonna
sorta
get Robert
looks like
Downey
the-
Jr. in here?
Okay.
Ooh, could be.
All right,
Sort
going
of
back.
looks like the Millennium Falcon.
Ooh, yes.
Oh.
All right, so Germany. I don't know if this was 2 weeks or a week ago. They formed hydrogen plasma through nuclear fusion for a quarter of a second. I mean, this was shocking at the time, first of its discovery, right? It's like, wow, we actually just did this. And then China, like a week later from that, this was a few days ago, they were like, look at us, we can do it for 102 seconds.
We see your quarter of a second and raise you 102 seconds.
Competition drives everything.
Breaking barriers.
So in order to make this a viable energy source, would we have to just have that plasma stay stable for an unlimited amount of time? I mean, how you're talking about 102 seconds, and then they had to shut it down because what's going on?
All right. So, obviously, this requires an intense amount of heat. So, for example, China. No, we'll go with Germany again. We'll stay on the right side first, left side second. So Germany, for their quarter of a second, they had 80 million degrees. That was their plasma.
That's it?
Yeah, just 80 million degrees Celsius, nothing big. Well, actually, that is pretty big.
Shoot.
And then China, theirs was only 50 million degrees. Not as impressive, but hey, that was 102 seconds, guys. I mean, think about that. And 50 million degrees Celsius, that's 50...
Celsius? I thought it was Fahrenheit.
No, this is Celsius.
Wow. Okay, that puts a spin on things.
That's 3 times hotter than the core of the sun. And that's the 50 million degrees, not the 80 million degrees. But after this, after Germany saw what China did, they were like, okay, you guys are all big and hoity-toity. So they're like, they put out a big claim. They said that they can obtain 100 million degrees for 1,000 seconds. That's 17 minutes. 1,000 seconds of 100 million degrees Celsius. They said that that is feasible, and they could conceivably obtain it.
So, this is a good chance for me to bring something back from 1989. I'm not talking about the Taylor Swift album.
Oh, dang it.
Okay.
Oh, savage.
I'm talking about Pons and Fleischmann. You ever hear about these two guys?
I haven't.
Okay, well you should have.
There's a
They are really famous for being sort of bad scientists. They came out in 1989 and said that we have discovered a way to do cold fusion, and this is like the holy grail of energy. If we could do fusion, the reaction you're talking about, without getting that core temperature so hot, and they said, well, we've accomplished this, and they were using palladium and all this kind of weird stuff, but the problem was they totally circumvented the scientific method, which says you have to go through peer review, have people check your work, and try to basically get the same result as you got, because otherwise it's just junk, right? They totally circumvented that and just went to the popular press. I believe they went to Time, and Time released this whole thing about Pons and Fleischmann, saying that they're like the most brilliant scientists ever. Everybody else tried to do the same experiment and couldn't do it.
But you can't do that.
That's right. So I think it's a good thing we should consider here is that the scientific process has to be legit. You can't just go and circumvent the system. And this is one case where these guys tried to do that and totally lost credibility among all other scientists. Crazy. So 1989, you guys were not even considered yet.
No. No, we were.
We might have been swimming around.
All right, so
What if we were living back then?
Oh.
And we're just reliving.
What if
our
we're
lives
just
now?
reliving? What is
There
time?
it is, folks.
What is
Go
time?
back
Is
to
time
that,
in
back.
existence?
okay, so are we? Anybody have any questions for Isaac about fusion?
Like, Isaac's talking about a whole bunch of hydrogen-powered devices, right? Mm-hmm. So this is all hydrogen-powered. I read this article a few days ago about a British firm called Intelligent Energy, and they're claiming that they can create a hydrogen-powered battery for 7 days, a 7-day charge.
Is this using fusion or not?
I don't believe so, but it's still hydrogen-powered.
Hydrogen-powered.
Because you can't do fusion in a little cell phone.
Yeah.
Yes, I think.
So I was wondering if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
on that.
Um.
We'll cover that later. How about?
Yeah.
Yes, I just think it's an awesome thing. If we could get it, it would be fantastic. I just don't know how. We got the best minds in the world working on this,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, we
you
do.
know, eventually, I think it's something that we can solve. Max, we got some questions from our listeners.
Okay, so we have a question from Jade Johnson, and she is a question directed towards you. And do you think that college tuition should
get the
be
best
free
minds
for
in the world
everyone,
working on
and
this.
why or why
And
not?
you know, eventually, I think it's something that we can solve. Max, we got some questions from our listeners.
Okay, so we have a question from Jade Johnson, and she
I
is
think
a
in
question
perfect world,
directed
yeah.
towards you. And do you
You
think
know, I
that
think in a
college
perfect world,
tuition
we
should
get the
be
best
free
minds
for
do that.
everyone,
I
and
don't know
why
how
or
you
why
can
not?
fund that. Eventually, I think it's a good thing I'm not. Max, we got some questions from our listeners.
Okay, so we
Jade,
have a question
yeah, I
from
mean, I'd love to
Jade
pick up your tab, but you know,
and she
not gonna do
is
that.
a
By the
question
way,
directed
just
towards
a
you. And
disclaimer,
do
Jade
you
is
think
my
that
opening
college
music.
tuition should
the
be
best
free
minds
for
do that.
everyone, and why or why not?
You know, eventually, I think you know, it's family.
We have some raging here out of from Sarah Rupp.
Okay.
We have some hashtags going here. Women in STEM and college. We want to know your input on any of the topics and why or why not.
They want to hear
Do we
what
have any input at all?
I think it's good.
We have some raging
Well,
here. We brought her in here for the meat, guys. Sarah Rupp.
Yeah.
Okay,
We
you
have
brought to talk
some
about meat, but I'm
hashtags
sure,
on here.
what do you
Women
think
in
about this
STEM and
fusion?
college. We want to know your input on any of the topics and why or
What about
why
this,
not.
Jeff? They want to hear
Do we
what
have any input at all?
I think it's
We
good.
have
Okay.
some
Maybe
raging.
she'll
We
have
brought her
some
in here for the meat,
fun
guys.
stuff. Oh, you do have to talk about
We
okay.
have some
We're gonna get some
hashtags
robots.
on here.
What do you got some
Women in
about this?
STEM.
We're gonna do a
College. We want to know your input on
By
any
the way, Lily, just so you guys know, Lily's not just like a farmer. I don't want you guys to think she's just like a hick farmer. She's a really smart girl. She's in AP Bio. She does really well. So, you know, we do value her opinion. Okay, we're going on to robots.
All right. So when you hear the word robot, what probably comes to mind is like these iconic figures. Like you see this robot from Futurama, and you just see like the Terminator. You think of the Terminator, and you just think of
The
all
audio
kinds
is
of
overlapping.
So, there we go.
the audience. What? The
They're saying they can't hear anything. It says technical difficulties.
Well,
Do you have YouTube open? Because you might want to get that video if you have it.
Well,
I got rid of it.
apparently we're having some technical
I
difficulties
think
with
we're
sound.
good now. We're good.
It
Okay,
should be good.
we should be
I
good.
think we're
now.
good.
All right. All right. Anyways,
You
about
said
the
no. Okay, now it's good now.
Okay.
All right, we're good.
You know,
we're good.
We're
All
just
right.
we're just
So
rookies
when you
here.
see robot, you
Week
probably
2.
think of like the Tin Man or something, and then you just think of a robot like, okay, it's a box shape and it moves like, yeah, Mr. Roboto. All right. So that's not actually true. The definition of a robot is a machine capable of carrying out a complex series of actions automatically, especially one programmable by a computer. So essentially what this means is your graphing calculator is a robot. So it's actually a huge definition, and we're going to get into a whole bunch of types of robots. So we're going to start with the military. So on the left here you see a robot which is called Cutlass. It's a robot by the British Armed Forces, and what this robot is doing is defusing a bomb. So this is essentially what they're doing here is they made a robot in order to save lives, because you don't want a soldier going in to defuse a bomb when you can have a robot doing it for no life lost.
The Hurt
Max.
Locker. Did you see that movie?
What movie?
The Hurt Locker was all about the guys who run those robots, and so they would be the men who would, the soldiers who would be out there, you know,
Yeah, I heard
maneuvering the
about that.
robots. Fantastic movie.
Yeah, it's kind of like the drones that we can.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, and then on the right here you see what's called an exoskeleton. So what an exoskeleton is if you think like Iron Man would be the extreme exoskeleton, where you have super strength and super power, basically. So what they do is they help soldiers carry heavy loads, walk longer, and reduce injuries.
Are these being used by
Yeah.
many soldiers, or I mean, how many?
It's beginning to be more common. So actually, like 400 pounds on a suit, like a suit that one of them is named the XOS2, exoskeleton suit, and they said 400 pounds feels like 23 and a half pounds. So obviously that's a huge, like, awesome kind of thing, because then you don't need to carry around heavy items and making them feel heavy. You're just going to be carrying around massive amounts of stuff, and it's not going to feel like anything. So you can run faster, you can lift more, walk longer. The only problem with this is that they cost a lot, so $70,000 is like what one would cost, and the battery life issues, which there comes the power issue.
Yeah.
But that's a little different. All right, so those are two robots in the military sense. Some more military robots, but not necessarily totally military robots, is some robots by Boston Dynamics. So this is a company in Boston. Google actually bought this company recently. So what they do is, this robot right here is called the LS3, and it can carry up to 400 pounds. This robot is actually gas powered, so it's a little on the heavier side and loud side. This robot right here is called Cheetah. So this robot actually, it was built by MIT, and they recently had the world record for fastest legged robot, which is 29 miles per hour. So it's not quite cheetah speed, but it's getting there.
Dude, now, I don't want to. I'm not real smart on robots.
Yeah.
Kind of like physics and kind of like whatever else we talked about death today. But no, robots still going to be controlled by man, right?
Right.
So, is there ever going to be an overlap between like robots and artificial intelligence?
You know, I'm going to talk about that in the future.
Okay,
it's called cyborgs.
Yeah, because I feel like, you know, like the Terminator stuff. You know, that's like
it's like when the robot meets the biology.
Yes.
Which is going to get really interesting.
That is going to be scary almost.
So this robot right here in the top right corner is called an Atlas robot. It's a humanoid robot, and it's replicated after a human to see how we can control human robots. And for those who are wondering or thinking like that's pretty scary, you shouldn't have much to fear, because I'm going to get into that, but they're not super advanced yet. It's kind of limited. They fall a lot, and
It'd be pretty funny to watch.
They break a lot. They're expensive.
Okay.
Right.
I want to get a cheetah robot
cool.
though.
And this robot right here is called Spot. It's 160 pounds. And we're going to show a little video right here of Spot walking at Boston Dynamics headquarters. So, just walking through the office. It looks just like,
They just could replace like dogs.
see the kitchen, okay? And balance.
Yeah, I guess that's a little bit harsh. Oh, wow. Whoa.
But like just correcting the balance, like, that's pretty extraordinary. And they're using these in the military for robots can navigate the rough terrain, the dangerous terrain, instead of sending a human soldier in there.
You know, I hope that ISIS doesn't get a hold of something like this. You know, if you think about we're using these in our military, I'm guessing that other people are probably trying to get a hold of this. Like now you take the whole thing of
It's crazy.
It's
Boston
scary.
Dynamics is sponsored by DARPA, and again, we talked about DARPA a little bit last week.
Right.
And DARPA's trying to create the technology before like ISIS can. All right, that's enough of that.
It's pretty awesome. So this is the kind of robots you guys are making in your robotics club,
No,
right?
this is a little more advanced.
Well, just a little. Oh, look at that. Clouding robot.
It's pretty awesome.
It is. It's very cool.
It's very innovative.
All right, so that's Boston
Fake
Dynamics. Now we're going to get into humanitarian. So this is the DARPA Robotics Challenge. It took place in Los Angeles last year in June. So what this competition was, DARPA sponsored a competition to create robots that could go in for humans to help. It was like thought about because of the Fukushima nuclear disaster in Japan. And so what they did here is they created humanoid robots because there's valves and there's like circuit breakers that you need to move. There's holes that you need to drill. So they made humanoid robots that could manipulate human-like objects in order to go in and shut the bad things going on in the nuclear plant. So the team from South Korea ended up winning, and yeah, Carnegie Mellon got third place, which is this robot. Let's see. This robot right here was called Chimp.
Do you want to describe that? They can't. I don't think they can see your cursor. Can they?
The red one?
Can they? The red one right there.
Yeah, the red one right here.
Nice. I like that.
All right. And this guy's name is Gil Pratt. He's the leader. It was his idea to start this DARPA Robotics Challenge. It was a big success, although there were like tons of robots falling over all the time. Like it's kind of good for the people watching that I think there's not going to be a robot humanoid takeover anytime soon, but it's really cool how we can save lives sending into the Fukushima disaster and other nuclear disasters. So and right here it's driving a mule, so that's pretty cool as well. So autonomous cars, like when you think of a robot, you probably don't think of autonomous cars, but they're essentially the same thing. Gil Pratt, the guy that was on the screen in the last slide, is now at Toyota Research Institute, and he's leading a project for autonomous cars. He's going to create labs at MIT, or right next to MIT and right next to Stanford, so they're trying to harness some good talent. And what he claimed was that he's going to build a car that can drive autonomously by 2020, so not too far away. And Google is, again, leading this development. We have other companies that are...
I just brought up this news story that I had seen earlier in the day,
Yeah.
that a blind man was testing Google's self-driving car, so that was catching some news stories that even a blind man could drive a Google car. Interesting.
I have some stats about like deaths behind the wheel. 30,000 people in the U.S. in cars die each year, which is, if you correlate that, it's 100 people per day that are dying in the U.S. 1.2 million people die worldwide each year, and let's see right here. Oh yeah, in each crash, like 94% in the U.S. are caused by human error.
Yeah.
So, if we can,
Yeah, I'm going to ask you, like, so I'm thinking about, is it just all sensors?
yeah, so they have GPS, they have like
Okay.
LiDAR sensors. To
So we're
scan.
looking at, we kind of see this already with like the cars that park themselves. Is that sort of,
Yeah, it's similar. That's
It's
like
like more low key.
a much lower key.
yeah, that's like the start
these
of it.
robots are, you say, okay, take me to the mall.
And they literally just sit there. They don't. There's no.
Yeah, that
controls
guy's
for
just
them.
reading the paper. Imagine just chilling in the back of that car on the right. It's a little more.
I don't even know how that would work.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's all kinds of sensors. There's cameras. What they're doing right now is all kinds of camera development where they're taking cameras and treating them as eyes and using all kinds of different scenarios. They're actually training it with videos of subjects. And
I got to tell you, I've never really felt so stupid as I have in this podcast today, because like these topics have all been over my head in a sense.
We did
It's
combine
great.
with
You
links.
guys are great.
well, I think we all
Keep it
have
going.
a unique perspective.
We do.
So
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
pretty cool. All right. So that's a consumer item which is coming soon, I guess 2020. So
Ooh, that's coming up.
keep
co-
your eyes
what's
open.
cost going to be for an autonomous car?
I don't know that offhand.
I'm going to wait for the Chevy version, the
But
Chevy
I got
version,
this
or the Ford.
right
It's
now.
gonna be
It's
a lot
actually
cheaper.
pretty cool because all the companies right now are basically competing to
Well,
get an autonomous.
What about Tesla? Because we talked about
yeah,
SpaceX last week.
Tesla's definitely in it.
I was going to say that's the kind of company I would think would really go for something like this. Interesting. That won't be cheap.
Yeah, that's Tesla's like main goal, I'd say. All right. Some more consumer robots. You see this Roomba. You've probably heard of that. It's by iRobot. Yeah, so
Nice.
Roombas, what they do is they clean your floor. So if you're feeling lazy, then
Lift up your feet.
just lift up your feet. Let the Roomba meander around your.
I'm intrigued by the
Roof
John
line.
Deere one. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, I got to know. He said $1,000 roughly for the lawn mowing robot.
Yeah, like others were 1,000, so it's about in that price range.
I wonder if it like looks out and stops when a stick is in the way, or like just keeps on going. I don't know. Interesting.
Shout out to my robotics mentor, Mark Holshoe, because he brought one of those into our robotics to take a look at.
That's
Lily,
awesome.
why don't you were talking about robots, so
Oh.
let's get you in here.
Oh yeah, well they're Bomatic robots, and other companies have just invented robotic milkers. They're machines that milk the cows automatically.
What's it look like? I mean, does it look like a person who puts on the milker, or does it
No,
look more
it's
of
Yeah,
a
just like a robotic arm.
an
with-
arm?
Yeah, it's got an arm that puts the machine on and like cleans the teeth, and then it uses laser technology to see where it is. And
Is that like a big scale already, or is it just kind of just starting?
no, it's some farms are exchange
You have to pay the
transitioning
workers.
to that.
Wow.
Yeah, they are very expensive though.
Breaking news: the autonomous cars are speculated to be at about $150,000 and up. That is just starting
That's it.
price, folks. No customizable, like you know.
Oh, you can't. You can't get
No,
any
you
special
can't do
bling
that. They
on them?
you already have $200,000 of GPS arrays on them.
Wow. You know, and yeah, that's going to be scary if you get in an accident to replace that.
Hey, you got your shoe because it's their fault.
You guys should talk a little bit about your robotics and what you guys do, because I know you've last couple of years been really involved in this robotics team.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a cool project. So maybe our listeners want to know what you guys are involved with out there. Just briefly. Isaac, maybe Isaac can tell us about that.
Sure, Isaac.
All right. Well, so First Robotics, it's an organization. Each year they throw together a task that there's a whole smorgasbord of different teams. There's over 1,000 teams, robotics teams, that all work together, kind of together. They also kind of compete to discover this task. Right? We're on Fire
This
team.
is our team website.
Yep.
Nice. Ooh.
Fire.com. Visit us. And if you go all the way to the bottom, Ethan,
What's at the bottom?
there's a little countdown, right? It says 12 days and 7 hours, maybe. All right, it says something.
It says
right?
something. You're right.
Yeah, it definitely does say something. And so the first Saturday in January, they release a task. That task changes every year. Typically, you have to like manipulate some sort of object, whether it's like a tote or a big ball, or maybe it's a frisbee or a basketball. I don't know. It changes every year.
What's your task this year?
This year, Ethan, do you want to explain
Yeah,
that?
sure. It's a medieval themed game this year. Essentially, what we have to do is cross a bunch of obstacles. Is it 8? I mean 9. Yeah, so 9.
Yeah,
There's
9.
like a bar. There's a drawbridge. There's a moat. Of course, they're not like it's called a moat, but
Yeah.
it's not necessarily a full-blown moat. But yeah, you're making these robots to cross obstacles, and then when you get over, you have to shoot this boulder. It's actually a dodgeball. You have to shoot that into a goal, and there's 15 seconds in the period where it's autonomous. So
you
it's just
can't-
like autonomous cars, but much
Right.
less complex.
You're not touching the controls. You
Yeah.
just
There's 15 seconds where you have to have it be autonomous, you mean?
Right.
Okay.
So in the first 15 seconds of the match, what you do is you just let it go. You program it ahead of time. So say move forward
Yeah.
a couple feet, go left, do the thing, and then shoot it.
Do you know the exact design layout of the course so you can practice?
Yeah, I think I'll talk about that another time.
Okay,
'cause
sure.
Maybe
Yeah.
I'll talk about my vision
We could do a
efforts for the
whole
visually impaired.
section
Oh,
on
yeah.
robotics.
Yeah, we could talk about robots a lot here. These guys are really big into robots. But
we like everything science.
yeah, we do. Yeah,
this
definitely.
is the world of
We do not
robotics.
discriminate.
No.
Yep. All right. So back to this lawnmower. So some things about this is it's very maneuverable. It's made for any weather and heavy conditions. That was according to John Deere's
What about
website.
what about a robotic snowblower?
Yeah, they have
Because
those
you
too.
know what,
I
it's
thought about
much
putting-
better to be outside in the summer than it is
True.
blowing snow in the
I
winter.
should have put that in there.
Design this. You could be a billionaire. Okay, this is
I'm
it.
sure there's companies like Honda's working on this. and
We'll be the first
Bosch.
ones. We are the home of Tecumseh Motors. We used to be. Now they moved. But,
Some of the bad things about this technology with the Roomba and the lawnmower right here is they're not perfect. Like they're kind of random movements. Like go this way, do some random movement, and go the other way. They're getting better. And what you do for the John Deere one is you put this wire outside of your yard, and it'll just meander around and cut your grass.
Nice.
Sort of like an electric fence, you know. You bury the wire and then you put
Yeah.
a shock collar on your dog, and if it walks out, it bounds, it goes ah, and then it has to go back in.
Yep. All right.
All right.
This is another robot from the DARPA Robotics Challenge. They're kind of testing what a humanoid robot can do.
It sweeps floors.
This is IHMC's robot, which is the Florida Institute for Human and Machine Cognition, sponsored by Boston Dynamics once again, because it's the Atlas robot. And essentially, like these robots are not as good as what are portrayed in Hollywood. Like these robots fall a lot, and that robot, like when I was watching the video online, it was sped up like so many times in order to actually like sweep the floor. Like it's so slow and it keeps falling, but.
You're saying Chappie isn't real? No.
No.
All right, quick question
We're
from
getting there, but I think like humans don't have wheels, and I think wheels have the advantage for cleaning your floor.
Okay.
quick question from Jade again. What's your view on the hands-free segways? Doctors deeming them as dangerous. You know, they have problems with that lithium-ion batteries and the cheaply made batteries with the electron
I saw
spacing
that.
spontaneously combusting. What's your view
I'm
on
not a
that?
big fan of those, to be honest. Like just the battery problems. Yeah, they're cool, but
I really like them.
To me,
Hey,
it's a waste
guys.
of money.
yeah,
Okay.
You can
like-
say you have a Segway, but I have legs. There we go.
Exactly.
yeah. Like
Don't
you
buy
want
one.
something that can brace yourself. You know what I mean?
My wife put on the comments here, Mike Tyson, and you also have Mike Tyson falling off his little thing. Classic.
Wait, shout out about those Segways. Dean Kamen invented the Segway, and he's the founder of our robotics organization.
He
First
invented the Segway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that
Okay,
later.
okay.
Different day, folks. Different day.
All right, a few more things about robotics in the industry now. So many of you have probably heard about Amazon and their efforts with drone and package delivery, which is kind of scary because you might have people not liking this and maybe shooting down a few drones from the sky to get someone else's package.
Well,
But
that looks like an expensive watch. Bang.
You know what? That's an easy way to go shopping.
yeah,
Hold the drones for ransom. Show
and
up
with the
$100,000
FAA,
for
like,
your drone.
Yeah.
it's actually really hard for them to get these all approved. So Workhorse right here in this second picture has another drone. They're trying to compete with Amazon, and what they're proposing is having their flying robot, their quadcopter, looks like an octocopter or something, have like its station on top of the UPS or delivery truck, and then it will just fly, like, so you don't need to get out of your car, just drive past and it'll just do your drop.
Let's be lazier.
I know, right?
Did you guys know that the WIA has approved drones for use at games? And in fact, last year your sectional soccer game, you were playing.
There
so I don't
was-
know.
it was-
But you
yeah,
guys,
they were-
there was I was watching
Yeah,
it because
I
the
saw
drone
that.
was actually over there, and then later on that night there was actually like you could watch them filming the game from the drone. So I know there's a number of teams. I think Kimberly High School, I believe, is already using drones in their football team because instead of just like we have the end zone camera, they can get their drone camera and getting from all the different angles. It's like wow, costly, but they're actually approved to use. Crazy.
Right. And yeah, that's crazy stuff. And Google right now is starting a project called Project Wing. So now Google's getting in the game with the delivery system and their autonomous semi trucks. So that's going to be interesting. All right. Right here we actually have, let's see, robots called Koya and Kona, which are two robot arms. They're the chefs at Tokyo Ramen in China. So what these robots do is they boil water, they put some noodles in, they put it in a bowl, and do all this stuff. So you just have robots making your food. Like, it's cool, but can't people do that?
My favorite all-time robot is Wally.
Oh, I
Wally.
like Wally. Hey, that's coming out this
Wally.
summer, I think. Yeah.
Okay, there it is.
There's speaking of Wally, you see this robot
Yep.
right here?
Yeah.
This is a company called Savioki from Santa Clara in California, in Silicon Valley. So what these people are proposing, actually they have it in a few hotels. Let me see. 12 robots in hotels in the U.S. So there's these robots that when you need a toothbrush, when you need
So kind of like room service
Yeah,
without
you need
the
a washcloth, you
service.
need towels. Like instead of having a person walk, I mean that's pretty far. Why don't you just have your robot?
Right.
So
Massive
this
hotel.
person
Why not?
maybe got a toothbrush or some towels, and here she is picking it up from a robot.
Which is like getting back to Wally.
Yeah.
I think we're going to end up being
Some-
like that.
Like this robot's called the Relay Robot officially, but
Yeah.
the hotels renamed them, and one of them was Wally's.
See, like we're eventually going to be riding around on robots, and the robots are going to do everything for us, and then we're going to be even more bigger and
Technically,
lazier.
a car is
Yeah.
a robot.
They
so-
claim though that it won't take jobs;
Machine.
it's only going to free up time for other jobs. Sure. So we're just gonna
Okay.
becoming more specialized in what we do.
I'm guessing that top one is like auto industry
Yeah, this
That
is
does
just
look like
the
car
general like
assembly line.
Robotic arm.
robots?
assembly line.
Well,
That
hey,
took,
the
I think
last-
that took some jobs, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
That keeps taking jobs too. All right, and then just because it's cool, I'm gonna close some robots with the new Rubik's Cube record being set by a robot. So, like about the Rubik's Cube record, a guy named Lucas Etter in the USA holds the record for 4.9 seconds to solve the unsolved Rubik's
I did it in like 45 minutes. I'm not going to lie, it's my record.
I've honestly never
And then-
achieved it.
This robot right here solved it in 0.887 seconds. So it's like in a blink of an eye, it's solved. So I'm just gonna play this video real quick.
All right.
I hope
Don't blink or you'll miss it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Keep your eyes wide open, folks.
Under 1 second.
robot is timing itself, so could it lie?
Oh.
The world may never know.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so that's 552 times faster than the human record.
Calvin Leverins on our comments said he got the Rubik's Cube in 2 minutes.
Not good enough,
You know,
Calvin. The robot has you beat.
I don't know. I don't know if I believe that, Calvin.
2 minutes. Shocking. Wow.
Okay, so anybody got any comments about robots? I mean, they're just going to be everywhere the way it sounds.
And I'll throw a twist on this probably in next week or something, but the cyborg robot.
Okay.
That's cool.
So, folks, honestly, when we get done with the show, we really don't have any clue what we're going to do next week. It's really whatever we find out there that intrigues us, and we all just sort of pick it up. But we're gladly would take any thoughts from you about things you want to hear about. And, we're just regular guys, just loving science. And Lily here, she's a regular gal, loves science.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. You got anything else you want to say about anything?
No, I don't.
Okay. So, yeah, we just kind of dropped this on her this morning. I'm like, you're going to be in the podcast tonight. She's like, okay. She really didn't have any idea what was going on. But thanks for tuning in, and send us your comments, send us your tweets, spread the word. Synergy.
Make sure to also keep monitoring our Twitter handle and our Facebook page, and because I run that, I'll keep up to date with that and try to answer your guys' questions and incorporate them into our podcast as you give them to us.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
See
you
ya.
very much.